You checked your phone this morning. You used satellite internet or a cellular network that routes through one. You passed a Tesla on the way to work. You scrolled through posts on X. And somewhere, in a data center in Austin, Texas, an AI model trained on everything you've ever typed is getting smarter. You didn't choose any of this, but you're already inside it. Let's back up. You wake up. You open your phone. Maybe it's an iPhone, maybe Android, but either way, you're feeding data into a system that's being studied, monetized, and trained against. You drive to work. You notice the charging stations multiplying in parking lots. You've seen the Starlink dishes going up on farmhouses, remote cabins, fishing boats. You haven't thought much about it. It's just infrastructure, right? You're right. It is infrastructure. That's exactly what makes this interesting. At work, someone mentions ChatGPT. Someone else says they've been using Grok. A coworker asks if you've heard Elon Musk might actually run his AI company public. You half listen because you're busy, because it feels distant. But here's what nobody at that lunch table is saying. The man behind those conversations, behind the satellites overhead, behind the cars charging on your street, behind the platform you argued on last Tuesday, is building something that doesn't have a name yet. And it's not a company. It's a structure.
Here's where it gets interesting. Most billionaires build one thing, one company, one industry. They find their lane and they own it. Musk didn't do that. While you were watching his rockets explode in slow motion and laughing at his tweets, he was doing something quietly systematic. He wasn't just building companies, he was building dependencies. Tesla isn't just a car company, it's an energy company. Solar panels, home batteries, a growing grid. X-Ace isn't just rockets, it's the backbone of satellite internet for hundreds of millions of people, and counting. X isn't just social media. It's a real-time data stream of human opinion, behavior, and language, and it feeds directly into an AI company he controls. And those companies don't just coexist, they reinforce each other in ways that are almost invisible until you draw them out. xAI, his artificial intelligence company, reportedly received a multi-billion-dollar investment from Tesla. Think about that for a second. A public company's shareholders funded a private AI venture he also controls. The Boring Company is digging tunnels under cities. For what? For now, tourism. But the long-term play is obvious. Automated vehicle networks running on Tesla hardware. Neuralink is developing brain-computer interfaces. Implants, devices that could one day read and write to the human brain. You might be asking yourself, is this connected? Or is it just one guy with a lot of interests? That's the right question, and we're going to answer it. But before we do, drop a comment right now. What company surprised you most? Because the one most people forget is the one I think matters most. I'll tell you which one at the end.
Let's talk about money, because that's where the structure becomes visible. Musk relocated most of his corporate operations to Texas, and in doing so, he quietly built a network of holding companies, LLCs, and trusts that operate around his personal and corporate finances. Journalists and researchers who've tried to map it describe a structure that's deliberately layered, not illegal, but not easy to follow either. Now, here's the part that rarely makes headlines. A significant portion of what made this empire possible wasn't private capital alone. It was public money. SpaceX has secured billions in NASA contracts and Department of Defense deals. Starlink received government subsidies for rural broadband deployment. Tesla, in its early years, received a $465 million Department of Energy loan, which it repaid, but which helped it survive a period when it nearly collapsed. None of that is hidden. It's all in public filings. But the story that gets told is usually the one about the visionary and the rocket, not the structural relationship between public funding and private empire building. Here's what's worth sitting with. Government contracts aren't charity, they're deals. SpaceX delivers launch services. Starlink provides connectivity where private companies wouldn't build. Tesla accelerated EV adoption. These are real transactions with real outcomes. But the scale creates something else. When one private entity controls the launch infrastructure that government agencies depend on, when one company's satellites handle military communications, when one platform shapes the information environment of hundreds of millions of people, the nature of that relationship shifts. It's no longer just a vendor relationship. It starts to look structural. Let's draw the map. X captures attention and data. Every post, every scroll, every engagement signal. XAI processes that data, trains on language, behavior, opinion at scale. Neuralink, in its long-term form, aims to sit between you and digital reality entirely. Starlink provides the connection, bypassing traditional telecom infrastructure, reaching places legacy networks never will. Tesla controls energy generation, storage, and transportation, the physical layer. The Boring Company is, in its own way, preparing the ground. This isn't the first time someone has tried to control multiple layers of an industry. Standard Oil controlled extraction, refining, and distribution. Early railroad barons controlled land, transport, and logistics. What's different here is the vertical isn't one industry. It's communication, energy, transportation, space, and cognition. And here's the thing that gets under your skin when you think about it long enough. None of these companies are structured to be accountable to each other. They're not a conglomerate in the traditional sense. They're privately held, publicly traded, or somewhere in between, with ownership structures that keep control concentrated at the top. Tesla shareholders can vote on board composition, but they couldn't vote on whether Tesla money would flow into a private AI company. SpaceX is still private. You don't get a say. X is private. You don't get a say. You're a user, a customer, a data point, not a stakeholder.
Now, is this a conspiracy? No. Is it illegal? Not by current law. But current law was written before one person could plausibly control the satellites overhead, the cars on the road, the AI answering your questions, and the platform shaping your political reality simultaneously. The system isn't broken. It just hasn't caught up yet. Which, to be fair, is a pretty consistent tradition.
Senator, we sell ads.
So, what does this mean for you specifically? In the near term, not much changes. You'll keep driving on roads, using the internet, scrolling your feed. But zoom out 10 years. If autonomous vehicle networks scale and Tesla's robotaxi platform wins that market, the way you move through your city is on infrastructure owned by one entity. If Starlink becomes the dominant global internet provider, particularly in the developing world and in underserved regions, the access layer of the internet is owned by one entity. And if XAI becomes the AI layer that governments, businesses, and individuals depend on, the intelligence infrastructure of daily life is owned by one entity. And if Neuralink reaches even a fraction of its stated ambitions, the interface between human thought and digital systems is owned by one entity. You've lived through what it looks like when one platform controls social media. You know what content moderation decisions at scale feel like. You've seen what happens when an algorithm shifts. Now multiply that across 5 industries instead of 1. This isn't fear-mongering. These are the trajectories currently in motion. Whether they arrive is a different question. Whether we're thinking about them now, that's the question worth asking. Remember this morning, you checked your phone, you drove past a charging station, you scrolled through posts on X. None of that felt like a system, it felt like Tuesday. That's the thing about infrastructure. You only notice it when it's gone, or when someone else controls it. The companies Elon Musk has built are genuinely impressive. Some of them have done things that most people thought weren't possible. That's real. And it's also real that the structure being built around them, the concentration of control across industries, the public-private entanglement, the lack of external accountability, is something that deserves serious attention. Not panic, attention. The company most people forget, by the way, is the boring company. Because when the tunnels are built and the autonomous fleet is ready, the last piece of physical infrastructure locks into place, quietly, underground, where you can't see it. If you live in a city where any of this is coming or already here, drop it in the comments. If this made you think differently about something you drove past last week, share it with one person who'd find it interesting. And the next video is going to be about the one country that's decided to build all of this itself without Musk. That one might be even more uncomfortable.